Alright guys, so we're back. I have the front shocks back in here to get repainted, and yes, I have the rear shocks in here. So, you see I already have that set split. I got my pipe in here, that way I can actually have it, we'll say eye level, so I can actually stand and paint it. I'm not crouching down at that level like I did last time, which is why I am repainting them ones, and plus I didn't have painter's tape that time, so I used electrical tape, and I kind of missed a couple spots. As you can see on this one, the electrical tape was over too far and I didn't catch it when I painted it, so I'm just not too keen on that, and I want to sand them and redo them just to make them look nice. I did not take a video of taking up shocks off. It's pretty simple. You need either a 21mm or 13/16. You'll need a socket and a wrench. You can either use a ratchet, or I just use my 1/2" small DeWalt impact gun. On the bottom of the shock there's a bolt and nut. The nut will be out by the tire. The bolt will be towards the pumpkin, and comes apart fairly easy. I mean, that truck's a 2020, and I believe it's lived in Pennsylvania its whole life. Now, it doesn't have that many miles on it, and it doesn't have a very much rust on it underneath at all, so it comes apart very easy. And the top, it just has a bolt going through with a welded nut in the frame, so you just back that bolt out. Now, the passenger side, it is real tight. I was able to squeeze my impact in, which I have that stubby 1/2" DeWalt, and I was able to get it in there and get the bolt out, but it's tight with the exhaust, and I think there's a few wires up there. I think they're for the fuel tank, but it's able to be done. So obviously I got the shock boot off on this side. Now, you can reuse these as long as you don't destroy them taking them off. Now, taking them off, there's a couple different ways. I mean, if you can actually get it to slide up over, which I was having trouble doing, so I popped mine out around and slid it down. I'm not reusing them. I am going to keep a hold of them in case I do decide to scuff them up a bit and paint them. That was one thing I thought about doing with them. I have these shock boots. Now, they are a little bit darker than the purple that's on the truck, so I'm going to see what they look like first. If I don't like them, I'm going to scuff those up and paint them. Now, the way I took them off, I just kind of, I'm not going to take it off right on video because I don't have enough hands, but my GoPro's in the house. I kind of took a screwdriver in here and just worked it around and popped it down over, because you'll see these indents. They're what holds it on that groove there. So if I'd go to put this back on, it would most likely stay with no issue, but I'd probably put a clamp or something on it, just like a hose clamp like these ones have, just to be safe. But I don't think it would go anywhere. Or big, I've had ones that have big heavy zip ties with them, but that's the plan. I'm gonna get the stickers all off of these ones, get them scuffed up, get them hung, get these scuffed up, get them hung, get everything taped off, and get ready to get painting. Alright guys, so have them hung here. They're sanded. I wiped them down once. That way, when I get a stick tape on, it doesn't just fall off because of the dust. Obviously, they don't look like they're really wiped down, but if you saw them beforehand, like where I sanded these ones, they were very, very white and dusty. Same thing with these ones. But I'm gonna get them taped. Obviously, I have them hung already. I'm gonna get them taped up, wipe them down again, and cover everything up in here, hopefully better than I did last time, and start painting. Alright guys, so as you saw in the video, I got the shocks all taped up, and ow, hit my head. I now have everything, for the most part, covered up. Not really worried about the stuff on the shelf. It's just mostly chemicals. But anyways, so got everything taped up, the bushings for the shocks, the plate on the bottom of the struts. Yeah, I could have painted these plates, but it breaks it up adding that black there. So I figured to tape them off like I did before. So I'm gonna wipe them down one more time, and then I will get them painted. Now, the paint that I ordered, because I didn't actually go to like our local paint store. It's already pre-mixed, so like I don't have to add any reducer or anything. It's just pretty much as it says. Shake and shoot. Our paint is ready to spray. It's the Auto Paint Depot. You just pretty much put your paint coat in, or if you don't know what you're looking for, they have samples and stuff there. Show you the color. So you don't have to reduce it down or anything. You just dump it in and spray. The only downfall to that is you don't get as much paint out of it, because when you add reducer, you get more paint, etc. So that is one downfall. But I'm gonna get these wiped down and start shooting them. Alright guys, so clear's on, 2 coats. I'm gonna let it dry. Then I'll take them down, take the tape off of them. Actually, I'll probably take the tape off and then take them down. But it's gonna be a little bit before that happens. Then I'll get the boots on the rear ones, and I'm gonna make purple or lavender, whatever you want to call it, Rancho stickers to stick on those. I'll eventually make Rancho stickers for these ones too. I'll probably put them on once I get them on the truck. But there they are. Alright guys, so got the tape off. Just gotta cut them down. I'm gonna put the shock boots on these ones, and then I will make the decals for them. Go get them put on the truck. These ones, I'm going to, after I get them cut down, I'm going to deal with the rear ones, and then I will put these back together. And then I will make decals for them once they are on the truck. I will not put the decals on until they're on the truck, just for a matter of dinging them or scratching them. That's one thing I'm kind of worried about. And I had said about there being like little marks in this shock. If I get close enough to it, you can see them in the camera maybe. If you can see, it's almost like little fish scales, like almost like kind of like orange peel, but it's in the actual paint itself. But it does not look that bad after it's clear coated. But there's, down at the bottoms of them, you can see from how they're hung, you can see the runs on the bottom. But they're not bad other than that. Alright guys, so that's one rear shock with the boot on. It is rather difficult getting over this top piece. A lot of shocks aren't as big around at the top there, so it's a little easier. Obviously I stopped right here. I did not pull this last piece over, only because it's rather difficult. Start struggling about here. That's like halfway. Actually, I think you probably start struggling further on, but most of them aren't as big at the top. The way the Ranchos are designed, they're a lot bigger at the top for some reason, but it looks fine. That's up in the frame, so you're never going to see it either, so it'll be okay. But I'm going to put the other one on, then measure, see how big a decal I need to make, and get the decals made. Alright guys, so there's, well, I put one of the decals on. Like I said, it's a lighter purple. These are darker than the actual color, but they'll work okay together. I just printed these on, I have a Cricut, and I just printed them out on it. It's obviously not the same sticker, because now here's a bigger one. That's the Rancho sticker I pulled off the shock. Obviously it's not the same text, not the same size, nothing, but it's just something so it says Rancho on it. I even thought about putting Trailboss on it, but they're Rancho shocks. I figured I'd put Rancho on it, but I'll stick the other one on then start putting these back on the truck. Okay, so this is the driver's side of the truck. So you'll be at the rear of the rear tire, and on the bottom, like I said, you'll have a 21 or 13/16 bolt and nut, and then at the top you'll have a bolt. And pretty simple. I do suggest, if you're doing this, taking the shocks off or putting them on. No, taking them off, it's not so bad, but putting them back on, you always want to jack it up by the frame. Where right now I'm not jacking it up or anything, because putting them back on is always a pain. I mean, you can take a pry bar under here and pry up on it. Obviously, I didn't do that because I didn't want to scratch them, but I ended up jamming my finger in there and couldn't get it back out. But it's always best to jack it up by the frame, that way you can let this rear axle drop some and then it slides right in. But being that I have my front on jack stands, I didn't really want to do that. And then we'll go over here, which I didn't do. Here's the passenger side. You want to be in front of the passenger side rear tire. Same thing, bolt on the bottom. And now, tucked up in here by the muffler hanger is the other bolt that I said was a pain in the butt to get to, because you have this hump pipe here and this wiring. Like I said, you can get to it. Ratchet, you can have it right out. I mean, I got my little stubby impact in there and was still able to get it out. Alright guys, so I have all the pieces here for the driver's side strut, plus I have the leveling kit laying here. So in the rough country kit you have these two spacers, and then you have two of these spacers. Now these two will go up on top, and then one of these ways, yeah, like that. They go up on top when you go to put it on the truck, so they're not needed yet. This spacer here with the chamfer side down will go on down here, and then you'll take your plastic ring here, I think it's an insulator ring, it'll go back on. It originally was down here on this metal piece. You just pretty much took it off, moved it up. Now before I tore these struts apart, I made sure I took pictures of how it was together so I could put it back together. I mean, that was just so I could remember in case I would forget. Now obviously, like I said in the previous video when I tore these down, I just have these, you know, pretty much all thread style spring compressors, which they're metal jaws and everything. Now they make like the wall hanger ones, and I'm pretty sure they have rubber clamps on them, which would be a lot nicer for this. I'm gonna try to put tape inside here, and I might put painter's tape on the spring there too, just to reduce the risk of chipping any paint or powder coat or anything. But I'm going to start reassembling this, and then we'll start putting it back together. Alright guys, so it is together. As you saw, I stopped the video. I literally bottomed out my big 1/2-inch gun, and it would not turn them anymore. I don't know if you can see in the video. I'm not sure which one it is. Yeah, it's this one. It bent my spring compressors. No, this one's pretty bad. So honestly, these are made for cars. They're not really made for doing truck springs, and it tore them apart, no issue. Being that I added that spacer down there, which that spacer's probably 1 inch, and these are probably the 1/2-inch spacers here. Actually, that's probably 1/4 inch there. That might be 1 1/4 inch spacer. Anyways, so those aren't really made for trucks. You can use them on trucks, you just gotta be careful. And I saw it was bending, but I figured I could make it. Well, I didn't make it. And one of the reasons for that is, if I can get this nut off. Okay, that nut doesn't want to come off. Well, I'll actually take it off anyways. The threads in this knot don't start till about here. So that was my problem. I could see the threads just fine, but I could not get to them because the threads in the nut don't start until further up in that nut. So that was a lot of my problem. So I grabbed 2 1-inch ratchet straps. I hooked into these speed nuts down here, one on the bottom and one on the top, and ratcheted them down, and it actually gave me enough to get it sucked together, which obviously I did that all off camera because that's like a ticking time bomb there. But it's together. It looks pretty good. I did nick it a little bit, which I'll be honest with you, I just touched it up with the paint, because trying to get those back off, I could not back them off with my gun at all. I know everybody out there is going to be like, oh, if you had a Milwaukee, you'd get it off. My dad has the Milwaukee, and I do not see the difference in them. Actually, my buddy has it too, and I still don't see the difference in it. But I'm going to try to bend this back so I can do the other side, or do the passenger side one. And I'll probably end up having to buy another set then, or get my wall mount one like I'd like to get, because I eventually want to do the struts on my West truck. I want to get the Bilstein 5100 leveling struts for that F-150, and for them I obviously have to take the springs off, swap them over to the new strut, and I'm going to need them for it. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to try to work on them, maybe put them in a vise here, bend them back, or maybe have to use the press, we'll see. But I'm going to try to get them working again so that I can get the other side done and get this truck back together. If not, I'll have to go find a set so I can get it back together. That looks a lot straighter. Now the thing is, if I take the pressure off of it, is it going to stay straight? Or is it going to spring back? Well, we'll see. No, looks like we're in luck. We might be in luck with these. Might be able to use them one more time before they decide to break. Alright guys, so I got them moving, so I'm gonna attempt this anyways, even though it's probably a terrible idea. If I can get this to move. So this thread right here is pretty rolled. If it's gonna break, it's gonna break right there, because it's getting caught. But they move. The one's still a little bent, but it's usable. Well, actually, I think they're both still a little bent, but they're usable. They move up and down. This nut, let's see if I can get it on camera. How I said it, the threads don't start till they're like halfway up. That's what I meant. So I could see the threads, and I mean, I could see the threads a good bit, and I'm trying to thread the nut on by hand, and I could not get it to thread on. And then I happened to take a look inside the nut, and I found out why. So just because you can see the threads don't mean you're gonna be able to thread that nut on. I mean, they may be different per vehicle, but that's how these struts are. And these are Rancho struts. They're factory on the Chevy Trailbosses. I don't know if I showed you during disassembly, but obviously in disassembly, this clear insulator belongs down here. Obviously with the leveling kit, it moves up to there. You have this foam piece. It's right there. It's like a bump stop. Oh, there it is. This spacer belongs right here. It's pretty much a spacer for the nut and for this bushing here. This is actually 3 pieces. If you can remember, I had it apart before. I can get back apart again. So if you ever have this apart, I don't know if it's the same on all vehicles, but I know on this one, there is actually lineup pins. There's 2 lineup pins. So it'll always go back together the right way. So your strut top will always line up. And there. So when I took these apart, obviously the angle the truck is on, this faces out towards you. When I took these apart, that's where those X's were. They lined up dead center. So when I put it back together, that's where I want them. So that's another reason why I took a picture before I took them apart, so I could remember where I had to line everything up at. That just leaves your nuts all in the right place. So when you get the strut out there, you're not trying to spin the thing around trying to get it to line up. I'm gonna put tape on this spring again and start compressing it. Alright guys, so as you see, I got the second one mounted. I was not able to use my strut compressors. They're junk. They're stripped and they keep binding up, so, or cross-thread or whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're binding up. Threads are rolled, everything on them. So I took it to one of our local shops here and used their wall mount to put it together. So now it's back together, I can get it put on a truck and get the truck reassembled. So that's going to be in one of the following videos, but thanks for watching, and hopefully get that bed liner in and the truck back together here soon.